So part of my underlying philosophy for my teaching actually came out of a profound personal experience I had when I was myself a PhD student. I remember once when I was going on an observing trip in South Africa, I was sitting in a car with a very important professor in South Africa and an offsider from the observatory. And they were sitting in this car, and we drove for 4.5 hours from Cape Town to this observatory in Sutherland in the mid-Karoo. And they spent the entire time completely ignoring me as a PhD student. By the time I got to the end of that trip, I felt like I was worthless. I felt like nothing. And I said to myself there and then, if ever I get into a position to be able to interact with students, I would do it in a completely different way. I would treat them as human beings, as individuals, and with empathy. And that kind of philosophy of treating people as individuals and empathizing with their situations is something I've taken over into my teaching. When I'm in the classroom, I tend to get quite animated. I'm sort of a very enthusiastic individual, and I also like to have direct interactions with the class. So my lecturing, yes, I use PowerPoint, yes, I use little videos and slides and sound, but I also try to get that personal interaction with individual students. I sort of break up the class into sections. I get one competing against the other. My passion is to try to get students to engage with science and with the underpinning mathematics, because maths is the language of science after all. It's like looking at a book with pictures in without reading the words if you don't have that language of mathematics to describe the incredible sciences around us. And to get our students to engage with science and with science concepts and science methodology in a very real way, and I do that by giving them the chance to have ownership of work that they do. So that in class, for example, just yesterday, at the very last lecture in my introductory astronomy course, Astro 170, I got them to derive the famous Drake equation from first principles in class, interacting with them, asking them questions, but I'd seeded the ideas in the lectures beforehand about things that they could think of that would feed into this whole process. I mean, one of the motivating factors for me in my teaching is the terrible state of science education retention in Australia into tertiary education. I love teaching, I'm passionate about it, but I'm very, very passionate about science education, and the reason is that in our society at the moment, in the Western world in particular, science education is in the doldrums. It's terrible. If you look at the enrolments in HSC physics, for example, in 2013, those numbers sat neatly between hospitality and law. We're in the knowledge economy. We call ourselves a clever country here in Australia, yet the people that will have the power in the future are those that understand technology and the importance of technology. We need to engage in science and its interpretation and its understanding.